Hey, church family and friends, this is Pastor Jon. As you know, services have been canceled, gatherings have been canceled, and we're just continuing to monitor things. We've canceled through the end of the month, but as conditions may call for it, it may last a few more weeks. And I'm already desperately looking forward to the time when we can get back together, that we can worship together, that we can read scriptures together. And hopefully means like this, videos like this, and other things we're looking into will provide some opportunities for us to be able to connect, distance in our own space, safe space, while we're doing that social distancing, while we're kind of quarantining right now, quarantine for this time, such as this. But we do hope this comes to an end. Our prayer is that this would come to an end, not only for the sake that we can get back together and worship, but for those people who are suffering most in this time. We are praying, we are deeply calling on the mercies of God, for the hand of God to bring health and to bring an end to this. But what we wanted to be able to do in this time is to be able to offer a bit of encouragement, to be able to offer a bit of reflection on Scripture, and to use this as a means to kind of center ourselves during this time. And that really gets to the core of one of my encouragements for us is to slow down, is to truly rest in this time as much as possible. There's no reason to stay busy. Resist the urge to just be busy, to be busy. If you have things to do those things, but rest. Truly use this time as a season to rest. Resist the urge to just be on news or social media or connecting constantly. Actually use some time to disconnect. If you're feeling lonely, reach out. Please, by all means, reach out. But don't just stay hyper connected in this time. I think that would be one of the foolish dangers and mistakes we can make during this time, is just to stay busy out of that sense of fear or desire to try to stay in control of things, but really to rest in the Lord in these moments. And that, for me, deepens this desire and reason to come back and actually continue the Lenten scripture readings during this time. That may seem like, why would we want to do that? There's so many more urgent things that we could be doing. And yet, one of the most powerful things we can do is we can read scriptures and we can pray and we can set aside time to commune with God and with each other. And that's what coming to this time and this season of reading scriptures together. And hopefully this will provide an opportunity for us to do that, even if it's at a great distance together. And I was reminded by one of my mentors this week that coming to the scriptures, in them, what we're going to find is not a foreign reality, but one, in fact, that is probably going to mirror so much of our own world right now, because the scriptures, their stories, their authors, their characters were written under and about times of great distress. And I think for many of us, this is a time of distress, great or small. This is a time of distress, suffering, great or large. This is a time of suffering. In Lent, what a beautiful reminder of Jesus and his sharing in the sufferings of us, sharing in the sufferings he didn't choose for himself, the passions he didn't choose for himself, the things thrust upon him, and all of us, we're enduring something we didn't choose for ourselves. And so I think continuing in this Lenten reading is just a great way to, in fact, deeply ground us in our hope and our faith and our love of God and God's love of us, in a season which there can just be this litany and tyranny of news and fears and concerns and sadness and grief. And coming to the scriptures is a great way to ground us and to guide us in this time. And so what I want to do is just be able to read these three scriptures with you and for you, and then offer a short reflection. The first scripture comes from 1 Samuel chapter 16, and it goes, the word of the Lord is, the Lord said to Samuel, how long are you going to grieve over Saul? I have rejected him as king over Israel. Fill your horn with oil and get going. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem, because I have found my next king among his sons. And Samuel goes, how can I do that? He asks. When Saul hears, he'll kill me. "Take a heifer with you," the Lord replied. "I have said I will come and I will make a sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will make clear to you what you should do. You will anoint for me the person I will point out to you." And so Saul did what the Lord instructed, and he came to Bethlehem. The city elders came to meet him, and they were shaking hands in fear, and they said, "Do you come in peace?" "Yes," Samuel answered. "I have come to make a sacrifice to the Lord. Now make yourselves holy, and then come with me to the sacrifice." And Samuel made Jesse and his sons holy and invited them to the sacrifice as well. And when they arrived, Samuel looked at Eliab and thought, that must be the Lord's anointed right in front." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Have no regard for his appearance or his stature, because I haven't selected him." God doesn't look at at the things humans look at. Humans see only what is visible to their eyes, but the Lord sees into their heart. And so Jesse presented 7 of his sons to Samuel. But Samuel said to Jesse, "The Lord hasn't picked any of these." Then Samuel asked Jesse, "Is that all of your boys?" "There is still the youngest one," Jesse answered, "but he's out keeping the sheep." "Send for him," Samuel told Jesse, "because we can't proceed until he gets here." And so Jesse sent and brought him in. And he was reddish brown, beautiful eyes, and he was good looking. And the Lord said, "That's the one. Go and anoint him." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him right there in front of his other brothers. And the Lord's Spirit came over David from that point forward. And then Samuel left and went on. The second scripture reading comes from John chapter 9. And as Jesus was walking, he saw a man who was blind from birth. And Jesus' disciples asked, "Rabbi, who sinned so that this man was born blind? Was it this man or his parents?" And Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents. This happened so that God's mighty works might be displayed in him. While it's daytime, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming, and no one can work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world." And after seeing this, he spit on the ground, made mud with his saliva, smeared it in the man's eyes. And Jesus said to him, "Go and wash in the pool of Siloam." And so he sent the man away and washed, and he returned, and he could see. And our final scripture reading comes from Ephesians chapter 5, verses 8 through 14. "You were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. So live your life as light, as children of light. Light produces fruit that consists of every sort of goodness, justice, and truth. Therefore, test everything to see what is pleasing to the Lord, and don't participate in the unfruitful actions of darkness. Instead, you should reveal the truth about them. It's embarrassing to even talk about what certain persons do in secret. But everything exposed to light is revealed by the light. Everything is revealed by light is light. Therefore it says, 'Wake up, sleeper. Get up from the dead, and Christ will shine on you.'" I'm struck that at the center of each of these passages, there is a theme emerging about light, about eyes, about seeing. As we've said about these scripture readings, that the lectionary, the reading that the church has followed for many years, offers us is this kind of folding over of the story, so we can see these layers to scriptures being echoing and calling and foreshadowing things in different places, these beautiful themes of God and God's redemption coming place. And in these, we see the eyes and sight and what is visible and not visible, right? In the story of Samuel, we saw that the world, what it sees is the outward and the visible. What it sees is small, and it calls it weakness. But the Lord sees strength, and he sees a leader. In the second passage in John, we see Jesus talking with his disciples, and later on, I want to go with the Pharisees, that where the world often really the church, where it sees suffering and it goes, that's sin. The Lord sees an opportunity to reveal his glory and his goodness, right? The purpose of suffering is never to be a proof of sin. The reality, the purpose of provision is never to be a proof of God's of somebody's righteousness, right? The purpose of Jesus's action is to reveal God's glory. See, where the world sees small and they think it means weakness, God sees something else. And where the world sees suffering and they say that must mean sin, God sees something different. Where the world sees foolishness because of Jesus' death on the cross, we see God's wisdom and God's grandeur, God's goodness. See, God's light makes things that were invisible visible. Jesus himself is the visible, the invisible made visible. God, who is invisible, made visible in Jesus. And so the question that I ask you, that I ask of ourselves as I reflect on these passages is, what has the Lord made visible to you? Or most specifically, what is the Lord making visible to you in this time and in this season in your life, in this week? What is the Lord making visible? And I'm not talking about secret knowledge, secret religious knowledge, or conspiracies. I'm talking about, in light of the hope of the resurrection, in light of the faithfulness of Christ, in light of the love of God displayed in the person and the work of Jesus, in light of that, what is becoming visible to you in this world? And therefore, in light of that, in light of what the light of the world has made visible, how can you and I live as children of light? What would it mean in this week, in our thoughts, in our minds, in our homes, with our neighbors? What would it mean to live in light of that? I reflect back on Ephesians 5, verse 9. Light produces fruit that consists of every sort of goodness, every sort of justice, every sort of truth. How can we live as children of God's light this week and in these trying and difficult times? I invite you guys to reach out, to offer your reflections to one another, to encourage one another, to share the needs that you have, so that we as a community, as a body, can love on each other, to meet those needs. If it's prayer, if it's a conversation, if it's some physical need like toilet paper, and some of us have extra, let us come together and share and be generous and love in all of the real and physical ways that we can. Blessings.